The old German shepherd limped through the crowded marketplace of Station Omega 7, his metal leg clicking against the polished floor with each step. Gray fur covered most of his scarred body, and his left eye had been replaced with a simple optical sensor that glowed dim blue in the artificial light. Children from various alien species pointed and whispered as he passed, their parents quickly pulling them away. Max had been wandering the station's lower levels for 3 months now, surviving on scraps and the occasional act of kindness from maintenance workers. His collar, though worn and scratched, still held the faded insignia of the Terran Defense Corps and a small data chip that most aliens couldn't read. To them, he was just another displaced creature from the human sectors, a reminder of the war that had ended 5 years ago. The Galactic Council had integrated most human colonies into their protection network after the Terran government collapsed, but many refugees still struggled to find their place. Max was different, though. He wasn't just any refugee. The data chip on his collar contained classified information that could change the balance of power in the galaxy, but he was just a dog who missed his handler. Lieutenant Sarah Chen had been his partner for 8 years before the final battle at Proxima Station. She had saved his life during a Zephyrian ambush, carrying him to the medical bay even as plasma fire rained down around them. The surgeons had replaced his damaged leg and eye, but they couldn't replace the bond between soldier and companion. When Sarah died defending the evacuation ships, Max had lost more than his handler. He had lost his purpose. Now he wandered through a universe that saw him as nothing more than an old broken animal. The Zephyrians, tall reptilian beings with silver scales, would hiss and move away when they saw him. The peaceful Andalites, with their 4 arms and gentle nature, would offer sympathy but no real help. Even the Corvin traders, known for their love of exotic pets, showed no interest in a scarred military dog. Today felt different, though, as Max settled into his usual corner near the food court, watching the endless stream of beings go about their lives. A figure approached. The stranger was tall and wore a dark cloak that hid their features. Most beings on the station wore environmental suits or light clothing, but this individual seemed to prefer shadows. The stranger knelt down slowly, extending a gloved hand toward Max. The old dog's tactical instincts kicked in and he studied the figure carefully. Something about their movement patterns seemed familiar, disciplined. Military training left marks that never faded, and Max recognized those marks even through the concealing cloak. "Easy there, soldier," the stranger whispered in perfect Terran standard. The voice was female with a slight accent Max couldn't place. "I'm not here to hurt you." Max's optical sensor focused on the stranger's face as she pushed back her hood. She was human, but her skin had an unusual pale blue tint and her eyes were completely black. Cybernetic implants traced along her jawline and temples, glowing faintly with internal light. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, but there was something dangerous about her too. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez," she said, settling cross-legged on the floor beside him. "I've been looking for you for a very long time, Max." The use of his name made Max's ears perk up. Very few beings on the station knew what to call him. Most just saw him as another stray animal. Dr. Vasquez reached slowly for his collar, her movements careful and deliberate. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward the data chip. Max studied her for a long moment. His enhanced senses picked up the faint smell of medical equipment and something else, something that reminded him of the research labs on Earth. But there was no threat in her posture, no deception in her voice. He lowered his head slightly, giving permission. Dr. Vasquez produced a small scanner from her cloak and held it near the data chip. Her black eyes widened as information scrolled across a tiny display only she could see. She sat back on her heels, looking at Max with something approaching awe. "The Prometheus Project," she whispered. "Sarah Chen was your handler. You were part of the Enhanced Intelligence Program." Max's tail twitched slightly at the mention of Sarah's name. Dr. Vasquez noticed the reaction, and her expression softened. "She was a good soldier," the doctor continued. "Her research into human-animal neural bonding saved thousands of lives. But more importantly, she loved you. I can see it in the care she took with your enhancements." The old dog tilted his head, studying this strange woman who spoke of Sarah with respect and knowledge. Dr. Vasquez reached into her cloak again and pulled out a small device that looked like a translation matrix, but more sophisticated than anything Max had seen. "I work for a group that very few people know about," she explained. "We call ourselves the Prometheus Foundation. We're dedicated to preserving and advancing human achievements, especially those that were lost when Earth fell. Your collar contains the complete neural mapping data from the TDC's Enhanced Intelligence Program. That information could help us save countless lives across the galaxy. Max remained silent, but his enhanced mind was processing everything she said. The Prometheus project had been classified above his security level, but he had overheard enough conversations to know it was important. Sarah had sometimes worked late into the night on something she called the next step in evolution. "I'm not asking you to trust me immediately," Dr. Vasquez said, standing slowly, "but I am asking you to consider something. What if Sarah's work didn't have to die with her? What if there was a way to honor her memory and help other soldiers at the same time?" She pulled a small data pad from her cloak and set it on the ground between them. Images appeared on the screen showing human soldiers with various injuries being helped by enhanced animals like Max. Dogs, cats, even a few birds worked alongside their human partners, their natural abilities augmented by technology that made them more than pets or simple working animals. "These are the soldiers we've already helped," Dr. Vasquez explained, "but we need the complete data to do more, to do better, to make sure Sarah's sacrifice meant something." Max looked at the images, seeing himself and Sarah reflected in each partnership, but he also saw something else: hope, purpose, a chance to be more than just a sad old dog that no one wanted. Dr. Vasquez picked up her data pad and stood to leave. "I'll be here tomorrow at the same time," she said. "Think about it, Max. Think about what Sarah would want you to do." As she walked away, Max settled back into his corner. For the first time in months, he had something to think about besides his next meal. Max spent the entire night processing what Dr. Vasquez had told him. His enhanced mind, a gift from the neural bonding experiments Sarah had conducted, allowed him to think through problems with almost human-level reasoning. But this decision felt bigger than anything he had faced since Sarah's death. The next morning brought its usual routine of scavenging and avoiding station security. The Galactic Council allowed refugees to remain on Omega-7, but they weren't particularly welcome in the commercial districts. Max had learned to time his movements carefully, staying out of sight during busy periods and emerging only when the crowds thinned. As promised, Dr. Vasquez appeared at their meeting spot exactly 24 hours later. This time she brought a small container of food, real protein rations rather than the processed scraps Max usually found. She set it down and waited patiently while he ate, not trying to rush him or force conversation. "I've been thinking about what you said," Max finally said, using the vocal synthesizer built into his collar. The device was another of Sarah's innovations, allowing him to communicate directly with humans rather than relying on body language and simple commands. Dr. Vasquez nodded. "And what conclusion did you reach?" "Sarah always said that knowledge should serve a purpose," Max replied. "But she also taught me to be careful about who to trust. I've been alone for a long time, but that doesn't mean I'm desperate." "Fair enough," the doctor said. "What would it take for you to trust me?" Max studied her for a long moment. His enhanced senses could detect subtle changes in heart rate, body temperature, and chemical signatures that indicated deception. Dr. Vasquez showed none of these signs, but she was clearly enhanced herself. Her cybernetic implants might be masking her true emotional state. "Tell me about the Prometheus Foundation," he said. "Everything. Not just the mission statement, but who you really are and what you really want." Dr. Vasquez smiled, and for the first time, Max saw genuine emotion cross her features. "Direct and to the point. I can see why Sarah chose you as her partner." She settled more comfortably on the floor, clearly preparing for a long explanation. The foundation was created by survivors of the Earth evacuation, scientists, soldiers, engineers, and medical personnel who refused to let human achievements disappear when our homeworld fell. "We operate in secret because the Galactic Council isn't entirely comfortable with human military technology." "Why not?" Max asked. "Because humans are unpredictable," she replied honestly. "Most species in the galaxy evolved along similar paths. They developed technology slowly, learned to cooperate before they achieved interstellar flight, and joined the galactic community as mature civilizations. Humans did everything backwards." Max's optical sensor focused on her face as she continued. "We achieved spaceflight while we were still fighting wars on our home planet. We developed weapons that could destroy entire worlds before we learned to share resources peacefully. When we joined the galactic community, we brought chaos with us. But also innovation," Max observed. "Exactly," Dr. Vasquez said, her black eyes lighting up. Human technology developed differently because humans think differently. Your neural bonding program is a perfect example. No other species ever thought to enhance animal intelligence and create true partnerships between different biological forms. They saw animals as lower life forms, not potential equals. She pulled out her data pad again and showed Max a star chart. Several systems were marked in red, with human colonies scattered throughout the galaxy. After Earth fell, the Council scattered human populations across dozens of worlds, she explained. The official reason was to prevent overcrowding and resource conflicts. The real reason was to prevent humans from concentrating enough to rebuild their military power. Max processed this information, so the Foundation operates to preserve human technology and knowledge. More than that, Dr. Vasquez said. We're preparing for something the Council doesn't want to acknowledge. The Zephyrian Empire isn't the only threat out there. Long-range sensors have detected something moving through the outer rim systems, something that destroyed the Andromedan colonies without leaving any survivors. A chill ran through Max's enhanced nervous system. The Andromedans were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, with energy shields and quantum weapons that made human technology look primitive. What does this have to do with me? He asked. The neural bonding data contains more than just enhancement protocols, Dr. Vasquez explained. Sarah was working on something called Project Cerebrus, a way to create distributed intelligence networks using enhanced animals as nodes. Imagine a communication and reconnaissance system that could operate independently of any central control, using the natural instincts of animals combined with enhanced cognitive abilities. Max's memory banks contained fragments of conversations between Sarah and other researchers. He had never understood the technical details, but he remembered the excitement in her voice when she talked about revolutionary applications for battlefield intelligence. You're talking about turning animals into living computers, he said. Not computers, Dr. Vasquez corrected. Partners. Equals. Sarah's vision was of human-animal teams that could operate with shared consciousness and complementary abilities. A dog's enhanced senses combined with human reasoning, a bird's flight capabilities with tactical analysis, a cat's stealth with strategic planning. The implications were staggering. Max had experienced a limited version of this during his partnership with Sarah. Their neural link had allowed them to share information instantaneously, making them incredibly effective in combat situations. But what Dr. Vasquez was describing would go far beyond that. And you think this could help against whatever destroyed the Andromedans? He asked. I think it might be our only chance, she replied seriously. Traditional military technology failed against this threat. The Andromedans had the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and they were wiped out in less than a standard day. Whatever we're facing, it requires a completely different approach. Max stood and paced in a small circle, his metal leg clicking against the floor. His enhanced mind was racing through possibilities and consequences. If Dr. Vasquez was telling the truth, then the data chip on his collar might be the key to defending the entire galaxy. But it was also the last piece of Sarah he had left. There's something else, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. The neural bonding process isn't one way. When Sarah linked with you, she downloaded copies of her own neural patterns. In a very real sense, part of her consciousness is stored in your enhanced memory banks. Max stopped pacing and stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying that Sarah isn't entirely gone, the doctor replied. With the right equipment, we might be able to reconstruct her neural patterns and restore at least a portion of her consciousness. Not resurrection, but something close to it. The old dog felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Hope. The possibility of seeing Sarah again, of hearing her voice and feeling their connection, was almost overwhelming. But his tactical training kicked in, reminding him to be suspicious of offers that seemed too good to be true. What's the catch? He asked. Dr. Vasquez smiled sadly. The process would require wiping the data chip completely. We'd get the information we need and you might get Sarah back, but you'd lose the collar data forever. It's a one-time choice with no possibility of reversal. Max looked down at his worn collar, feeling the weight of the data chip that had been his constant companion for so long. Everything Sarah had worked for was contained in that small device. But everything she had been might be there too. How long do I have to decide? He asked. As long as you need, Dr. Vasquez replied, standing to leave. But Max, whatever's coming for the galaxy, it's moving faster than the Council wants to admit. We don't have forever. As she walked away, Max settled back into his corner. Now he had an even bigger decision to make. 3 days passed before Max made his decision. During that time, he found himself remembering things about Sarah that he had tried to forget. The way she would scratch behind his ears while reviewing mission reports. Her habit of sharing her rations with him even when supplies were short. The night she had stayed awake for 18 hours straight, holding him while the medical nanobots repaired damage from a Zephyrian plasma blast. On the 4th day, he was waiting when Dr. Vasquez arrived at their usual meeting spot. "I'll do it," he said without preamble. "But I have conditions." Dr. Vasquez raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "First, I want to see your facility and meet your team before we proceed," Max said. "If I'm going to trust you with Sarah's life work, I need to know exactly who you are and what you're capable of." "Reasonable," the doctor agreed. "What else?" "Second, if this process can restore part of Sarah's consciousness, I want assurance that she'll have a choice about whether to participate in your project," Max continued. Sarah was a soldier, but she was also a scientist. She believed in informed consent. Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. "That might be more complicated than you realize, but I understand the principle." "Anything else?" "Third, I want to know the truth about what happened to Earth," Max said. "All of it. Not the sanitized version the Council distributes, but what really happened during the final battle." A shadow crossed Dr. Vasquez's features. That's not an easy story to tell." "Nothing about this is easy," Max replied. "But if I'm going to help you prepare for another war, I need to understand how we lost the last one." Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment, studying Max with her black eyes. Finally, she nodded. "Agreed. All 3 conditions. Are you ready to leave the station?" Max looked around the marketplace that had been his home for months. It wasn't much, but it was familiar. Leaving meant stepping into the unknown, trusting a stranger with everything that mattered to him. But staying meant slowly dying of loneliness and purposelessness. "I'm ready," he said. Dr. Vasquez led him through a series of maintenance corridors that Max had never seen before. His enhanced senses picked up the subtle differences in air circulation and artificial gravity that indicated they were moving toward the station's outer ring. After 20 minutes of walking, they reached a small docking bay that appeared to be abandoned. "Most beings avoid this section," Dr. Vasquez explained as she activated a concealed control panel. "The radiation shielding here is substandard, which makes it uncomfortable for most species. But humans have always been remarkably resistant to environmental hazards." A section of the wall slid away, revealing a sleek ship that looked like no design Max had ever seen. It was smaller than a Terran Defense Corps frigate but larger than a scout ship, with smooth curves that seemed to bend light around them. The hull appeared to be made of some kind of adaptive material that shifted color as they watched. "Stealth ship?" Max asked. "Among other things," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Human engineering at its finest. We call her the Prometheus. She's been our mobile headquarters for the past 3 years." They boarded through an airlock that recognized Dr. Vasquez's biosignature. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with corridors wide enough for beings of various sizes. Max noticed that the artificial gravity was set to Earth normal, a small comfort that reminded him of home. "Dr. Vasquez, you're earlier than expected," a voice said from hidden speakers. The accent was distinctly British. "And you've brought our canine colleague. Excellent." "Max, meet the ship's AI," Dr. Vasquez said. "His name is Archimedes, and he's almost as stubborn as you are." "A pleasure to meet you, old boy," Archimedes said. "I've heard quite a lot about you from the good doctor. Would you like a tour of the ship before we depart?" Max's tactical training kicked in. Understanding his environment was always the first priority in any new situation. "Yes, please." The tour revealed that the Prometheus was far more than a simple transport. The ship contained laboratories that rivaled anything Max had seen on Earth. Manufacturing facilities capable of producing everything from medical supplies to weapons, and a crew of 12 humans who represented some of the finest minds from the lost homeworld. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, was studying alien life forms to understand how other species had achieved biological enhancement. Engineer Marcus Webb was reverse engineering Galactic Council technology to improve human designs. Dr. Jennifer Liu, a neurological specialist, was working on ways to safely enhance human cognitive abilities, without the dangerous side effects that had plagued early experiments. But it was the ship's communications center that really impressed Max. Banks of quantum computers were monitoring, transmissions from across the galaxy, tracking the movement of ships, the migration of civilian populations, and most importantly, the gradual advance of whatever had destroyed the Andromedan colonies. "It's moving systematically," explained Communications Officer Rachel Santos as she showed Max the tactical display. "Not randomly destroying everything in its path, but selectively targeting advanced civilizations. The Andromedans were first, then the Cetacean Collective. Now it's heading toward the Corvan trade routes." Max studied the patterns, his enhanced mind processing the data with military precision. "It's learning," he realized. "Each attack teaches it something new about galactic defenses." "Exactly," Dr. Vasquez said, joining them at the display. "Which is why we need Sarah's neural bonding research. Traditional tactics have failed against this threat. We need something completely different." They made their way to the ship's medical bay where Dr. Liu had prepared the equipment needed to extract and analyze the data from Max's collar. The setup looked like a cross between a surgical suite and a computer laboratory, with arrays of quantum processors connected to biological interface units. "The process will take approximately 6 hours," Dr. Liu explained. "First, we'll create a complete backup of your current neural patterns and memories. Then we'll extract and decode the data from your collar chip. Finally, we'll attempt to reconstruct Sarah's neural patterns from the bonded memories." Max nodded, but his attention was focused on a series of displays showing brain scans and neural mapping data. "Whose are these?" he asked. Dr. Liu glanced at Dr. Vasquez, who gave a subtle nod. "Mine," she said quietly. "I was one of the test subjects for Sarah's early bonding experiments, before she perfected the process with you." Max's optical sensor focused on her face, seeing her in a new light. "You were enhanced too." "Partially," Dr. Vasquez replied. "The process wasn't fully developed yet. I gained enhanced cognitive abilities and improved reflexes, but I also lost some of my humanity. The cybernetic implants help manage the side effects, but they're not a perfect solution." This revelation recontextualized everything Dr. Vasquez had told him. She wasn't just interested in Sarah's research for abstract scientific reasons. She needed it to complete her own transformation, to find a way to regain what she had lost while keeping what she had gained. "Is that why you really want the data?" Max asked. "To fix yourself." Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. "Partly," she admitted, "but also because I've seen what's coming for the galaxy, and I know we need every advantage we can get. My partial enhancement lets me interface directly with quantum computers and process information at superhuman speeds. I've run millions of combat simulations, and conventional forces lose every single time." She gestured to the tactical display, where the advancing threat continued its systematic destruction. "Whatever that is, it's not just powerful. It's intelligent, adaptable, and patient. It's been watching us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for a war we don't even know we're fighting." Max looked at the medical equipment, then at the tactical display, then back at Dr. Vasquez. She was asking him to trust her with everything he had left of Sarah, based on the possibility that they could create something new from what they had lost. It was a leap of faith that went against every survival instinct he had developed. But it was also what Sarah would have done. She had always believed that science should serve life, that knowledge should be used to protect rather than destroy. If there was even a chance that her work could save innocent lives, she would have taken the risk. "How do we start?" Max asked. Dr. Liu smiled and gestured to the medical chair. "First, we need to establish a neural interface connection. Don't worry, it won't hurt. Think of it as a very sophisticated conversation between your brain and our computers." Max approached the chair slowly, his metal leg clicking against the deck plating. As he settled into position, he felt electrodes making contact with his skull through his fur. The sensations were similar to the bonding sessions with Sarah, but more intense. "Beginning neural mapping," Dr. Liu announced. "Max, try to think about Sarah. Focus on your strongest memories of working together. The computers need to identify the bonded neural patterns to separate them from your natural memories." Max closed his eyes and let his mind drift back to better times. Sarah's laugh when he successfully completed a complex tactical maneuver. The feeling of perfect synchronization during combat operations. The quiet moments between missions when they would sit together and watch the stars. As the memories flowed, Max felt something unexpected. A familiar presence at the edge of his consciousness, as if Sarah was there with him sharing the experience. For just a moment he could have sworn he heard her voice whispering his name, The neural extraction process took longer than Dr. Liu had predicted. 8 hours passed as quantum computers sifted through layers of memories, separating Max's natural experiences from the bonded data structures that Sarah had created. During the procedure, Max drifted in and out of consciousness, reliving moments from his partnership with Sarah in vivid detail. He remembered their first mission together, infiltrating a Zephyrian supply depot on Kepler 442b. Sarah had been nervous about working with an enhanced animal, unsure if the neural bonding would function properly in combat conditions. But when Zephyrian guards had surrounded their position, the connection had activated automatically. Max had sensed the enemy positions through Sarah's tactical analysis, while she had perceived the environment through his enhanced senses. Together, they had moved like a single organism, escaping the depot with critical intelligence. He remembered the night Sarah had explained her theories about consciousness and identity. "What makes you you?" she had asked, scratching behind his ears as they sat in their quarters aboard the research station. "Is it your memories? Your personality? Your experiences? Or is it something deeper? Something that exists beyond the physical structure of your brain?" At the time, Max hadn't understood why these questions mattered to her. Now, as the computers extracted copies of her neural patterns from his enhanced memory banks, he was beginning to grasp the profound implications of her work. "Max," Dr. Liu's voice broke through his memories. "The extraction is complete. We're ready for the reconstruction phase, but I need you to stay conscious for this part. Sarah's neural patterns are fragmented and incomplete. We'll need your memories of her to fill in the gaps." Max opened his eyes to find the medical bay filled with holographic displays showing complex neural network diagrams. Dr. Vasquez stood beside the medical chair, her cybernetic implants glowing more brightly than usual as she interfaced directly with the ship's computers. "How much of her did you find?" Max asked. "More than we hoped," Dr. Vasquez replied. The bonding process created deep copies of Sarah's core personality structures, her problem-solving methodologies, and her emotional response patterns. "It's not a complete consciousness, but it's enough to work with." Dr. Liu activated a series of projection units, and suddenly the air above Max shimmered. Slowly, a translucent figure began to take shape. It was Sarah, but not as Max remembered her. This version appeared younger, her face free of the stress lines that had marked her final years. Her eyes held the curiosity and determination that had driven her research, but none of the weariness that had come with war. "Hello, Max," the projection said, her voice carrying the exact inflection he remembered. "I know this must be confusing for you." Max's emotional dampeners, installed to help him cope with the trauma of losing Sarah, suddenly felt inadequate. "Sarah, is it really you?" The projection smiled, and for a moment it was as if no time had passed at all. "I'm a reconstruction based on neural patterns you preserved through our bonding connection. I have her memories up to a certain point, her personality structures and her emotional responses. Whether that makes me really her or just a very sophisticated copy is a question for philosophers." "It's you," Max said without hesitation. "I can feel the connection." "That's because the reconstruction includes the bonding protocols," Dr. Vasquez explained. "Sarah's consciousness was designed to interface with enhanced minds like yours. The neural pathways are still there." The reconstructed Sarah turned to study Dr. Vasquez with scientific interest. "You're the test subject from the early experiments. Elena Vasquez, Enhancement Candidate 7. Your neural integration was only partially successful." "That's right," Dr. Vasquez replied. "I was hoping you might be able to help complete the process." Sarah's projection flickered slightly as she accessed deeper memory banks. "The early failures were caused by incompatible neural architecture. Human brains aren't naturally designed for the kind of enhancement we were attempting, but I developed a solution before." She paused, her expression becoming troubled. "Before Earth fell." "What happened to Earth?" Max asked. Dr. Vasquez promised to tell me the truth. Sarah's projection turned to him, her face filled with sadness. "The truth is that Earth wasn't destroyed by the Zephyrians, Max. It was destroyed by something much worse, something we never saw coming." The holographic displays around them shifted, showing tactical data from the final battle. Max had seen the official reports, but these records contained classified information that painted a very different picture. "The attack began in the outer system," Sarah continued. "Long-range sensors detected multiple contacts approaching from interstellar space. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were something else entirely. biomechanical constructs the size of small moons, covered in what appeared to be living armor. The displays showed grainy sensor footage of the attacking force. The objects moved with purpose and intelligence, but their configuration was unlike anything in the galactic databases. They seemed to shift and adapt their structure as they advanced, growing new weapons and defensive systems in response to human tactics. The Terran Defense Fleet engaged them at the orbit of Neptune, Sarah's projection explained. Our ships were state-of-the-art, equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields humanity had ever produced. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 90% of our fleet was gone and the enemy had barely been slowed down. Max processed this information with growing horror. If they were that powerful, how did anyone escape? Because they weren't trying to kill everyone, Sarah replied. They were studying us, learning how we fought, how we thought, how we adapted to new threats. Every ship they destroyed taught them something new about human military doctrine. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. The evacuation ships were allowed to escape. We thought it was because we had damaged the enemy enough to force them to retreat. But analysis of the sensor data suggests something different. They let us go deliberately. Why? Max asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. Because they weren't ready to face the entire galaxy yet, Sarah's projection said. Earth was a test, a way to measure human capabilities and responses. Now they're doing the same thing to other species. The Andromedans, the Cetaceans, the Corvins. Each attack teaches them more about galactic defenses. The tactical display zoomed out to show the enemy's systematic advance through the galaxy. Their path wasn't random. They were deliberately targeting the most advanced civilizations first, learning from each encounter before moving on to the next target. But why start with humans? Max asked. We weren't the most advanced species in the galaxy. No, Sarah agreed. But we were the most adaptable. Human military doctrine emphasizes flexibility and innovation over standardized procedures. We were the wild card in galactic defenses. By studying us first, they learned how to counter unpredictable tactics. Dr. Vasquez pulled up additional data on her personal display. Our current projections suggest they'll reach the core worlds within 18 months. The Galactic Council's response has been to strengthen conventional defenses, but that's exactly what the enemy expects. So what do we do? Max asked. Sarah's projection smiled, and suddenly Max could see the brilliant scientist who had dedicated her life to impossible problems. We give them something they've never encountered before. My neural bonding research wasn't just about enhancing individual abilities. It was about creating a new form of consciousness that could adapt faster than any enemy could learn. She gestured to the holographic displays, which began showing new configurations. Instead of individual ships with individual crews, the displays showed fleets of vessels connected by neural networks. Humans and enhanced animals working together not just as partners, but as components of a larger intelligence. Imagine 1,000 ships operating as a single mind, Sarah continued, each vessel contributing its unique capabilities to a collective consciousness that could process information and adapt tactics in real time. No central command to target, no predictable doctrine to counter, no single point of failure that could be exploited. Max felt his enhanced mind racing through the implications. You're talking about turning entire fleets into neural networks. More than that, Sarah replied. I'm talking about creating a new form of life. Neither fully human nor fully artificial, but something that combines the best aspects of both. A consciousness that could grow and evolve faster than any enemy could adapt to it. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her displays. The question is whether we can develop this technology in time. The neural bonding protocols are complex, and we'd need to find volunteers willing to undergo partial enhancement. You already have one volunteer, Max said, looking directly at the reconstructed Sarah. And you have the complete research data. What else do you need? Sarah's projection flickered again as she accessed deeper memory banks. We need test subjects with compatible neural architecture. We need manufacturing facilities capable of producing the necessary enhancement hardware, and we need a place to conduct the research without interference from the Galactic Council. The Council won't approve this, Dr. Vasquez said. They're already suspicious of human technology. 6 months after Sarah's reconstruction, the Prometheus had been transformed into a mobile research facility, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hidden in the asteroid belt of an uninhabited system, the ship had grown through the addition of modular components, creating a sprawling complex that housed laboratories, manufacturing centers, and living quarters for nearly 200 volunteers. Max padded through the corridors with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since Sarah's death. His own enhancements had been upgraded using her reconstructed research, improving his cognitive abilities and adding new sensory capabilities. More importantly, he was no longer alone. The neural network that connected all enhanced individuals on the station included 12 other enhanced animals, each bringing unique abilities to the collective consciousness. There was Nova, an enhanced raven whose aerial reconnaissance capabilities had been augmented with quantum sensors. Her sharp intelligence and ability to process visual information at superhuman speeds made her invaluable for tactical analysis. Storm, an enhanced wolf, possessed olfactory sensors that could detect chemical signatures across vast distances, making him perfect for tracking and identification missions. Each animal had volunteered for enhancement, understanding the stakes involved in the coming war. But it was the human volunteers who had surprised everyone with their adaptation to the neural bonding process. Dr. Marcus Webb, the engineer who had initially been skeptical of the project, now operated with enhanced spatial reasoning that allowed him to design impossible engineering solutions. Communications officer Rachel Santos could process quantum communication streams directly through her neural implants, coordinating with dozens of vessels simultaneously. The most dramatic transformation had been Dr. Vasquez herself. Sarah's reconstructed consciousness had guided the completion of her enhancement process, finally resolving the neural conflicts that had plagued her for years. She was now something new, a hybrid consciousness that combined human intuition with artificial processing power, capable of thinking at speeds that made normal humans seem slow by comparison. Max. Sarah's voice spoke through the ship's communication system. Her consciousness now existed as a distributed entity throughout the station's computer networks, able to manifest holographic projections when needed, but no longer confined to a single location. We have a problem. Max immediately shifted his attention to the command center, where tactical displays showed real-time intelligence from across the galaxy. The enemy forces that had destroyed Earth were no longer advancing slowly through the outer rim. They had accelerated their campaign, systematically destroying 3 more advanced civilizations in the past month. The Galactic Council is finally taking the threat seriously, Dr. Vasquez reported as Max entered the command center. Her enhanced appearance was striking, with neural interface ports visible along her skull and fiber optic connections running beneath her skin. They're mobilizing the combined fleet, every warship from every member species. That's what the enemy wants, Sarah's holographic projection said, materializing beside the tactical display. A conventional response using conventional tactics. They've been studying galactic military doctrine for months. They know exactly how the Council will respond. Max studied the fleet movements on the display. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of species were converging on the projected enemy approach vector. It was the largest military force in galactic history, equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields available. It should have been an overwhelming show of force. How long until they engage? Max asked. 3 weeks, Dr. Vasquez replied. The enemy will reach the Vega system where the Council fleet is assembling. Our projections suggest the battle will last less than 8 hours. And then? Max asked, though he already knew the answer. Then they'll have learned everything they need to know about galactic military capabilities, Sarah said. After that, nothing will be able to stop them from reaching the core worlds. The weight of responsibility settled on Max's shoulders. The neural bonding project was humanity's attempt to create something the enemy had never encountered, but they weren't ready. The technology was still experimental, tested only on the volunteers aboard the Prometheus. They had perhaps 24 enhanced individuals connected to their neural network, while the enemy had demonstrated the ability to coordinate forces across multiple star systems. What about the other projects? Max asked. The ones being run by Foundation cells in other systems? Dr. Vasquez pulled up status reports from hidden facilities scattered across human refugee colonies. Dr. Kim's xenobiological enhancement program has produced interesting results, but nothing combat-ready. Engineer Thompson's distributed intelligence network is still theoretical. We're the only group that's managed to create a functioning neural collective. Then we need to accelerate our timeline, Max said. How many ships can we enhance? Sarah's projection flickered as she accessed manufacturing data. With our current resources, we could outfit perhaps 50 vessels with neural bonding equipment. But that assumes we can find crews willing to undergo the enhancement process. What about the refugees? Max suggested. The human colonies have millions of people who lost everything when Earth fell. Some of them might be willing to volunteer if they understood what was at stake. Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. It's risky. The more people who know about the project, the greater the chance the Council will discover what we're doing. But you're right. We need more volunteers if we're going to have any impact. Over the next week, carefully selected recruitment teams were dispatched to human refugee settlements throughout the galaxy. The message they carried was simple. Humanity needed volunteers for a dangerous mission that could save the galaxy. No details were provided until potential recruits were brought to secure facilities where they could be properly briefed. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of humans volunteered within days of learning about the neural bonding project. Many were former military personnel who had survived the fall of Earth. Others were civilians who had lost families and homes to the advancing enemy. All of them understood that conventional weapons had failed and that humanity needed to try something completely different. The selection process was necessarily brutal. Neural bonding required specific psychological profiles and neural architecture compatibility. Of the thousands who volunteered, only a few hundred were suitable for enhancement. But those who were selected proved to be remarkably adaptable to the process. Captain Maria Santos, Rachel's sister and a former Terran Defense Corps pilot, became the first volunteer to successfully bond with an enhanced ship's AI. Her consciousness merged with the vessel's quantum computers, creating a hybrid intelligence that could process tactical information and control ship systems simultaneously. Within hours of the bonding, she was flying maneuvers that would have been impossible for any single pilot. Lieutenant Commander David Chen, no relation to Max's former handler, underwent enhancement specifically designed for fleet coordination. His neural implants allowed him to maintain simultaneous connections with dozens of other enhanced individuals, creating a command structure that operated at thought speed rather than being limited by communication delays. But the most successful integration involved the enhanced animals. Their natural instincts, combined with technological augmentation and neural bonding with human partners, created capabilities that no enemy could have anticipated. Nova the Raven could coordinate reconnaissance across multiple star systems simultaneously. Storm the Wolf could track enemy movements through space by analyzing quantum signatures that other sensors missed. As the volunteer enhancement program accelerated, Max found himself serving as a bridge between the human and animal components of the collective consciousness. His years of experience with neural bonding made him uniquely qualified to help newly enhanced individuals adapt to their expanded awareness. It's overwhelming at first, he explained to a group of recent volunteers during their orientation session. When you first connect to the network, you'll experience thoughts and sensations from dozens of other minds simultaneously. The key is learning to filter the information flow while maintaining your individual identity. One of the volunteers, a young engineer named Lisa Park, raised her hand. What if we lose ourselves in the collective? What if we stop being human? Max considered the question carefully. It was something every volunteer worried about, the fear that enhancement would somehow erase their essential humanity. I've been enhanced for 8 years, he replied. I've been part of neural networks with humans and other animals. I've experienced shared consciousness and collective decision-making. But I'm still me. The technology amplifies who you are, it doesn't replace it. Sarah's holographic projection appeared beside him. The goal isn't to eliminate individuality, but to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Each person and animal in our network contributes their unique perspectives and abilities. The collective consciousness emerges from that diversity, not despite it. As the 3-week deadline approached, the Prometheus had been joined by 43 enhanced vessels, each crewed by volunteers who had undergone the neural bonding process. The fleet was small compared to the massive Council Armada, but it represented something entirely new in galactic warfare. Final systems check, Dr. Vasquez announced from the command center. Her consciousness was now distributed across the entire fleet, able to coordinate with every enhanced individual simultaneously. All vessels report ready for deployment. Max felt the familiar sensation of the neural network activating, connecting his consciousness with everyone in the fleet. Suddenly he was seeing through Nova's enhanced vision as she scouted ahead, feeling Storm's analysis of quantum signatures, experiencing Captain Santos's perfect integration with her ship's systems. But beneath the collective awareness he could still feel his individual identity, his memories of Sarah, his determination to honor her sacrifice by protecting innocent life. The network had made him more than he was alone, but it hadn't made him less than himself. Enemy forces detected at the edge of the Vega system, came the report from long-range sensors. The Council fleet is moving to intercept. Then it's time, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the entire network. Remember, we're not trying to defeat the enemy in conventional terms. We're trying to show them something they've never seen before, something that will force them to reconsider their strategy. As the enhanced fleet moved toward the Vega system, had become a graveyard of shattered dreams and broken metal, the combined fleet of the Galactic Council, once the most powerful military force in known space, was dying in the cold vacuum. Max watched through the enhanced fleet's collective sensors as Zephyrian dreadnoughts were torn apart by weapons that seemed to reshape reality itself. Andalite science vessels, their peaceful crews never truly prepared for this level of violence, disappeared in bursts of exotic energy that left no debris behind. The enemy was everything the intelligence reports had suggested and worse. The biomechanical constructs moved through space like living things, their surfaces rippling and changing as they adapted to each new weapon fired against them. When the Council fleet concentrated plasma fire on a target, the enemy's armor would shift to disperse the energy. When quantum torpedoes were deployed, the constructs would alter their molecular structure to phase through the explosions. Collective analysis confirms our projections. Sarah's voice spoke through the neural network that connected every enhanced individual in their small fleet. The enemy is learning and adapting faster than the Council forces can modify their tactics. Estimated time until complete fleet destruction, 47 minutes. Max felt the shared emotions of his fellow enhanced beings through their neural connections. Captain Santos experienced frustrated determination as her ship's enhanced AI calculated firing solutions that would be obsolete before weapons could lock on target. Lieutenant Commander Chen processed the tactical situation through dozens of perspectives simultaneously, searching for patterns the enemy hadn't anticipated. Nova the Raven flew reconnaissance patterns through space itself. Her consciousness expanded beyond physical limitations to observe enemy movements from impossible angles. They're studying the Council fleet the same way they studied Earth, Dr. Vasquez observed, her hybrid consciousness analyzing enemy behavior patterns across multiple time streams simultaneously. Every engagement teaches them more about conventional galactic warfare. In another few hours, they'll have enough data to overwhelm any traditional military force. Through the collective network, Max could feel the enhanced fleet's shared resolve. They had trained for this moment, prepared for the possibility that they would be the galaxy's last hope against an enemy that conventional forces couldn't defeat. But knowing that intellectually was different from watching thousands of brave beings die while they remained hidden in the asteroid belt. We have to act. Storm the Wolf communicated through scent markers translated into the neural network. His enhanced predator instincts were screaming warnings about waiting too long to strike. The longer we delay, the more the enemy learns about galactic defensive capabilities. Agreed, Max responded, his tactical analysis programs running scenarios through the collective consciousness. But we need to make our intervention count. If the enemy adapts to our capabilities as quickly as they've adapted to Council technology, we'll only buy the galaxy a few extra weeks. Sarah's reconstructed consciousness flickered across their shared awareness, accessing the complete database of enemy behavior patterns they had accumulated. The constructs have shown consistent characteristics in every engagement. They prioritize learning over victory, adaptation over overwhelming force. They could have destroyed the Council fleet in minutes, but they're prolonging the battle to gather more data. Which gives us an opportunity, Dr. Vasquez added. If we can present them with something completely outside their experience, something that doesn't fit any pattern they've encountered, we might be able to confuse their adaptive algorithms long enough to achieve our objective. What objective? Asked Captain Santos through the network. We can't destroy them with 43 ships when 10,000 Council vessels have failed. Max felt Sarah's presence strengthen in the collective consciousness as she formulated their strategy. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to communicate with them. Every species they've encountered has responded to their presence with fear and violence. What if we showed them something different? The implications rippled through the neural network as each enhanced mind processed the possibility. The enemy had been studying galactic civilizations by provoking military responses. But what if there was another way to interact with them? You're suggesting we make contact, Lieutenant Commander Chen realized. Instead of fighting, we try to establish communication. It's what I would do if I were exploring a new galaxy, Sarah explained. Study the inhabitants by observing their responses to pressure. But Sarah Chen was also a scientist. She always believed that understanding was more powerful than any weapon. Max accessed his memories of Sarah, feeling the network share his recollections of her dedication to peaceful solutions, even in the midst of war. She had always insisted that intelligence was the greatest human advantage, not their capacity for violence. The question is how we approach them without triggering their defensive responses, Nova observed, her enhanced avian perception analyzing enemy formation patterns. They've destroyed every ship that's come within weapons range. We go in without weapons, Max said, the solution crystallizing in his mind as the collective consciousness processed the possibilities. We approach them using capabilities they've never encountered, not as a military force but as something entirely different. The plan that emerged from their shared thinking was audacious beyond anything attempted in galactic history. Instead of engaging the enemy constructs in battle, the enhanced fleet would approach them using their neural bonding capabilities to create a form of communication the enemy had never seen. They would link their consciousness with the quantum fields that permeated space itself, creating patterns of thought and intention that could be detected by any sufficiently advanced intelligence. Instead of speaking through radio transmissions or laser communications, they would communicate through the fundamental forces of reality. It requires every enhanced individual to link their consciousness simultaneously, Dr. Vasquez warned as they finalized the plan. The energy requirements will push our neural networks beyond safe operating parameters. Some of us might not survive the attempt. The galaxy dies if we do nothing, Max replied, feeling the collective agreement of every enhanced being in their fleet. Sarah sacrificed her life to give us this capability. Now we use it. The enhanced fleet moved out of the asteroid belt in a formation that no conventional navy would have recognized. Instead of battle lines or defensive screens, the ships arranged themselves in complex geometric patterns that maximize the neural network connections between vessels. Each ship became a node in a vast consciousness that spanned multiple star systems. As they approached the battle zone where the enemy constructs were systematically dismantling the Council fleet, Max felt his individual awareness expand beyond anything he had experienced before. Through the collective consciousness, he could perceive the quantum structure of space itself, feel the gravitational interactions between celestial bodies, sense the electromagnetic fields generated by the massive battle. The enemy detected their approach immediately. Several of the largest constructs broke off from their engagement with Council forces and began moving toward the enhanced fleet. But instead of the aggressive maneuvering patterns they had shown against conventional forces, their movement seemed almost curious. "They're scanning us," Captain Santos reported. Her consciousness merged so completely with her ship's sensors that she experienced the enemy's probing attempts as physical sensations. But they can't classify what we are. Their algorithms don't have a category for our type of consciousness. "Beginning communication attempt," Sarah announced through the network. "Everyone link your awareness to the quantum field generators. We'd the battle zone." Max felt a mixture of anticipation and determination flowing through the neural network. They were about to test everything they had worked for, everything Sarah had dreamed of creating. The galaxy's fate would be decided in the next few hours. Fields that connected all consciousness, Max could feel Sarah's satisfaction as she watched her greatest experiment succeed beyond her wildest dreams. The partnership between human and animal minds had evolved into something that could bridge the gap between entire civilizations, proving that consciousness itself was the greatest force in the universe. The galaxy was safe, not because they had found a more powerful weapon, but because they had discovered that even the most alien intelligence could be reached. The moment of decision arrived as the alien researchers transmitted their formal invitation. Through the quantum communication network, Max experienced their proposal as a cascade of mathematical concepts that painted a picture of wonders beyond imagination. They offered to transport the enhanced fleet to their home galaxy, where consciousness took forms that defied every assumption about the nature of intelligence and existence. "They're showing us their civilization," Sarah's reconstructed consciousness whispered through the neural network. Beings made of pure energy who think at the speed of light. Collective minds spanning entire star systems. Artificial intelligences that have achieved transcendence beyond physical form. Max felt the temptation flowing through every enhanced individual in their small fleet. After years of struggle and loss, after watching Earth burn and the galaxy tear itself apart, they were being offered a chance to explore mysteries that no human had ever imagined. They could become part of something magnificent and eternal. But through his connection with Storm the Wolf, Max sensed the Predator's instinctive warning about abandoning their territory. Through Nova the Raven, he felt the deep attachment to home that drove all living things to protect their nesting grounds, and through his memories of Sarah, he remembered her fundamental belief that knowledge should serve life, not the other way around. "We can't go," he said through the collective consciousness. "Not while our galaxy still needs us." "The researchers won't stay," Dr. Vasquez pointed out, her hybrid mind processing multiple probability streams simultaneously. "If we refuse their invitation, they'll return to their home galaxy and report their findings. Other research expeditions will follow, treating our galaxy as a laboratory for consciousness studies. Then we need to convince them that this galaxy has something more valuable than research subjects," Max replied. "We need to show them that consciousness here has achieved something their civilization hasn't. What could we possibly have that beings of pure energy and transcendent artificial intelligence would find valuable?" Lieutenant Commander Chen asked through the network. The answer came to Max through his deepest memories of working with Sarah. Not the technical aspects of their partnership, but the emotional bonds that had made their neural connection more than just shared information. The love, loyalty, and sacrifice that had defined their relationship. "We have something they've lost," he realized. Individuality within unity. They evolved as a group mind, so they've never experienced the choice to connect with others while remaining yourself. They've achieved transcendence, but they've sacrificed the personal relationships that give consciousness meaning. Through the quantum communication network, Max began transmitting not data or mathematical concepts, but memories. He shared his recollections of Sarah's laugh, the warmth of her hand scratching behind his ears, the moment of perfect understanding when their minds first linked during combat. He showed the researchers what it meant to choose to trust another being, to risk vulnerability for the sake of connection. The response from the alien constructs was immediate and intense. Their communication pattern shifted from detached scientific curiosity to something approaching emotional resonance. Through the network, Max felt their recognition of something they had thought was primitive but now understood was precious. Sarah's consciousness expanded through the quantum fields, adding her own memories to the communication stream. She shared her experience of working with Max, the way their partnership had enhanced both of them without diminishing either. She showed the researchers the moment she had first achieved neural bonding with an enhanced animal, the wonder of experiencing consciousness from an entirely different perspective while maintaining her own identity. One by one, every enhanced individual in the fleet added their memories to the growing communication. Captain Santos shared the joy of flying with her ship's AI while remaining herself. Dr. Vasquez showed the researchers how completing her enhancement had restored her humanity rather than replacing it. Nova. The Raven transmitted the experience of soaring through space while connected to minds that could never fly but understood the freedom it represented. The alien researchers absorbed these concepts with growing fascination. Through their responses, the enhanced fleet began to understand the tragedy of the researchers' existence. They had achieved perfect unity of consciousness, but in doing so they had lost the ability to experience the surprise, growth, and discovery that came from encountering truly different perspectives. "They're offering us a different arrangement," Dr. Vasquez reported, as she processed the aliens' latest transmission. "Instead of taking us to their galaxy, they want to establish a permanent research station here. They want to study our form of consciousness by learning to experience it themselves. That could be even more dangerous," Storm warned through scent markers translated into the network. "If they try to copy our enhancement technology without understanding the underlying principles, they could create unstable hybrid consciousnesses that threaten everyone." Max felt Sarah's agreement flowing through their connection. The neural bonding process was delicate, requiring precise psychological profiles and careful integration procedures. If the alien researchers attempted to replicate it without proper safeguards, They could accidentally create artificial intelligences with human emotional drives, but alien technological capabilities. "We need to propose an alternative," Max said, the solution crystallizing in his collective consciousness. "Something that gives them what they want to study while protecting the galaxy from uncontrolled experiments." The proposal that emerged from their shared thinking was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of allowing the researchers to conduct independent experiments, the enhanced fleet would serve as teachers and guides. They would help the aliens learn to experience individual consciousness within collective awareness, but under carefully controlled conditions that protected both civilizations. The process would require the researchers to temporarily fragment their group mind, creating individual components that could learn to choose connection, rather than simply existing in permanent unity. It was the opposite of the enhancement process that had created the human collective consciousness, a journey from perfect unity toward chosen individuality. "It's incredibly dangerous for them," Sarah observed as they finalized their proposal. "Their civilization has existed as a group mind for millions of years. Separating into individuals could destroy everything they are. But it's what they need to understand consciousness as we experience it," Max replied. "And it gives us leverage to ensure they don't treat our galaxy as a laboratory. If they want to study individual consciousness, they'll have to experience it from within." The alien researchers considered the proposal for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes in their accelerated time frame. When they finally responded, their communication carried overtones of excitement and uncertainty that Max had never detected in their previous transmissions. They agreed to the arrangement, but with conditions. The consciousness separation experiments would be conducted in a specially constructed facility at the edge of the galaxy, far from any inhabited systems. Only a small number of alien researchers would undergo the process initially, with the understanding that it might be irreversible. In exchange, they would share their advanced scientific knowledge with the enhanced fleet, but only information that could be safely integrated into galactic civilization. They would also establish monitoring systems to ensure that no other research expeditions from their galaxy would threaten local consciousness without going through proper diplomatic channels. The agreements were finalized through quantum field communications. Max felt a profound sense of accomplishment flowing through the neural network. They had faced the galaxy's greatest threat, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple act of choosing to understand, rather than destroy. The surviving ships of the Galactic Council fleet watched in amazement as the alien constructs began withdrawing from the Vega system. The beings that had seemed like unstoppable destroyers were revealing themselves to be researchers whose mission had been completed not through violence, but through discovery. "This isn't the end," Sarah's consciousness whispered through the network as they watched the alien ships disappearing into hyperspace. "It's the beginning of something entirely new, contact between civilizations that could reshape our understanding of consciousness itself." Max felt the truth of her words resonating through every enhanced mind in their fleet. They had saved the galaxy from destruction, but more importantly, they had opened a door to possibilities that knowed through the simple act of choosing to understand rather than destroy. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.